What is up, studs, and welcome to Ask MandR episode 370. If you have a question or topic you want answered on next week's episode, drop in the comments section down below. Leave a like while you're there. And on this week, we're going to be discussing the first 2026 UCS rumor, the potential leaked snowspeeder set, the new iPhones, and much more. So let's get into it with our first question from L. Davidson, who says, do you think if they called this being the $1,000 Death Star, a Master Builder Series set, that people wouldn't be as mad that it's not a sphere? And I don't think the response to the shape and design of the Death Star has anything to do with the naming of the Death Star. Like, it being a UCS or MBS or even nothing would have nothing to do with people's reaction of a $1,000 Death Star being a slice of the Death Star. In my opinion, the reaction has been what it was always going to be. And I think LEGO had to know this coming into it. I believe in one of their interviews, they referenced the idea of knowing that it wouldn't be something that would probably be for everyone. And it's kind of nice that they're okay with that, because not everything you make can be for everyone. I think that's very different than perhaps things just being bad, because I don't think this Death Star is something that is just bad and it's like deflecting the criticism of, well, it's just not for you. It's like, well, no. Commander Fox, for example, obviously had a recent discussion on that figure. You know, that figure isn't just not for you, it's just bad, right? And so something like that you'd be deflecting, but I don't think that's the case here. I think that in some cases, the Death Star maybe just simply isn't for you, and it actually is going to be very good for a lot of people, and I think we'll see how that goes once the set releases here in a couple of weeks. But I think if you look at something like the UCS Assault on Hoth or the 2016 Death Star being called UCS, like, both of those sets were very different cases than I think this newer Death Star is, with the diorama concept of it compared to the playset concept that those sets had and the Cloud City set had when the Master Builder Series name was introduced. Just very different things, right? And so I think changing the name from UCS to MBS wouldn't change anything. And in fact, I have said a few times now that I think UCS was probably the right term to put on this set. As weird as it sounds, I'm pretty sure it was the right term. Nano Apollo says, we really aren't going to talk about the snowspeeder in the background of the holiday AT-AT box. Eye emoji. Yeah, I saw this and I zoomed in on it and I thought it was the older snowspeeder, but let's take another look. So there it is on the top right of the box, very prominent, not in the way that it's very large on the box, but just that it is clearly defined there. It's got a big swoosh behind it. Like, they're really trying to kind of call your eyes to it. And in some cases, they would use a in-universe picture of the vehicle or a silhouette of the vehicle, but in this case, we've got a clearly LEGO version of a snowspeeder. Now, I don't think this is any sort of hint towards a new snowspeeder coming out, because they rarely ever hinted anything on a box, but also a snowspeeder is just going to come out again one of these days, as it will many a times in the future and has many times in the past. There's no reason for them to really hint towards something like that. On top of that, this unfortunately doesn't look to be a new snowspeeder design, as the canopy piece is pretty clearly, in my opinion, I know it's a really small grainy picture, but it doesn't look like the new canopy piece at all to me. It looks exactly like the canopy piece that they used for about 20 years on the snowspeeders. That print is pretty unmistakable to me. I don't know if this is a specific snowspeeder design. Like, if it was 2019, it shouldn't have any orange on the front of the snowspeeder there, so I don't believe it is an exact 2019 model. It could be 2019 just with orange on the front. But yeah, the snowspeeder is there. It just definitely is not a new leaked version that we will see in the near future, and it certainly, in my opinion, isn't a direct hint at a snowspeeder coming out in like January or something like that. The last time I believe they really truly hinted at something on a box art was the 2016 Death Star having the Millennium Falcon silhouette with the bright light behind it. So, you know, a new snowspeeder will come out again, but I don't think this is a direct hint at that. But I'd love to be proven wrong. It would be cool if they were doing things like that, but I just don't think it's happening. Ryan says, when was the last time you were truly surprised when a set released? For example, you haven't seen any leaks or rumors. Love the content. Keep up the great work. Thanks, buddy. Now, I think the 2023 Super Star Destroyer has to be the answer here. Someone actually replied that, and it jogged my memory. I'm like, that's got to be the answer. That MIDI skill set didn't leak. There were no rumors as far as I was aware. And then, bang, midnight, March 1st, 2023, it showed up on Lego.com, available for pre-order, and that little shock drop was very fun. They don't do that often. It doesn't happen often. Things are going to leak out. You know, it's very idealistic to think that LEGO could reveal everything that way. It's just not going to happen, at least for Star Wars specifically. There's plenty of things that aren't Star Wars, like the Christmas tree recently. I didn't hear any rumors of a Christmas tree. I didn't see any leaks of the Christmas tree, but I also don't care about that $330 ridiculous Christmas tree. So there's that. Now, I chose this question for another reason, because I can piggyback off it to talk about the 2026 UCS rumor of a Super Star Destroyer returning. Unfortunately, there's currently no information on the price, the piece count, the minifigs, or anything, but but the Superstar Destroyer coming back as a UCS set really excites me. I thought that MIDI scale version that we see there was going to mean that LEGO wasn't really going to produce a UCS version of that in the meantime. Like, that just kind of is supposed to fill that void for people, and I think it does, but I also am not opposed to a big UCS Superstar Destroyer coming back out, especially because the original version came out in 2011. I think they can do something way better. I think it's going to end up being one of those sets, if the rumor is true, or potentially just farther out in the future whenever they get around to doing a UCS Superstar Destroyer again. It's going to be one of those sets that makes the old version look bad. It's going to be like Jango Fett's Slave 1 made Boba Fett's Slave 1 look bad and sad. The UCS Money and Falcon may be an older example, but that 2017 version makes that 2007 version not look quite as good, you know? LEGO release sets like that, and you just eventually look back at the old version, you're like, dang, this really aged all of a sudden. And so I think that could happen with the Superstar Destroyer. I'm really excited to see what comes of it. I would expect, personally, the same set of minifigs that we saw back in 2011. So basically Darth Vader plus the Bounty Hunter crew, maybe the full Bounty Hunter crew this time, because I think a character like Zuckuss wasn't in that because he didn't end up coming out until 2019 with the 20th anniversary Slave 1. So I think we could actually see more as far as the minifigs go for a Superstar Destroyer in 2026, but I'm quite stoked about it. Part of me kind of hopes they slightly downscale it so that it's still a $400 or $500 set and not a $600 or $700 set, but I think anything's on the table for a redone UCS Superstar Destroyer. But as crazy as it sounds, I kind of hope it's slightly downscaled. Moving on to our next question from Jim Chicken. He says, would you be hype if they made a hot tub Stormtrooper microfighter, like a hot tub ship? I think it would be pretty cool, but people might get mad about it not having that exclusivity to the 1000 Death Star, and in parentheses, Captain Rex. And I will repeat this for the millionth time. The reason people were mad about Captain Rex is because LEGO explicitly said that Captain Rex is exclusive to the UCS Venator. If they don't say something is explicitly exclusive, all bets are off, everything's fair game, right? We got to be realistic about what some words are going to mean when LEGO writes them down, and that's what happened back in 2023. I haven't read through the instructions of the new Death Star. I don't know if they make any promises of exclusivity on anything with this newer set. I doubt they will. I think they have finally learned that lesson, that that's a bad idea. That being said, I think the potential for some sort of set, including a hot tub Stormtrooper on the cheaper end, would be nice for a lot of people. I think they know people want a figure like that, and that's obviously why they would include it in a $1,000 set as a carrot on a stick, but also to later on put that somewhere else would make a lot of sense for LEGO, given their philosophy on a lot of this stuff. Now, I don't think you're going to end up seeing every figure in the Death Star that's currently exclusive in other sets, right? You look at something like the Master Builder Series Cantina, it just stands to reason that not every random weird character that they included there is going to make its way into another set. We've got 6 or 7 figures that here 5 years later still remain exclusive to the Master Builder Series Cantina, and frankly, I don't see that changing at any point in the next 5 years. But I also feel like a microfighter isn't fitting for a figure like that. Like, I feel like you should have to get more creative with something like that. Like, maybe it's the type of thing that could have been included in a Tantive 4 hallway as like an extra figure that's hiding behind the wall, and maybe there's another set in the near future that could accommodate something like that. Maybe the TIE Fighter that comes out next year, Vader's TIE Fighter, could have that figure. I still think that Vader's TIE Fighter that's coming out, that's going to be, is it $70? We'll have Darth Vader, like Yularen and Tarkin or something. So you'll get some of the Death Star figures, but I think expecting something like a hot tub Stormtrooper, it's kind of a pipe dream to see in another set. Seeing it exist once, I think, is already insane enough, right? Like, expecting to see it twice, I think, is just wasting a slot that could be used for more things that we don't otherwise have. But I also see the demand for people that want the hot tub Stormtrooper and not have to spend $1,000, or if you're going to get it on the secondary market, I expect it to cost about $200 from the set's release, so I wouldn't recommend buying it that way either. I would wait and see if you get lucky and LEGO releases it elsewhere, or if people steal them from the Mexico factory or whatever is going on there. Maybe you could get it much cheaper if that starts happening. But yeah, anyway, Load says, what is a battle pack you'd like to see? And I read this question and I thought about it. I'm like, I know I've answered this sort of question before, but it also kind of broke me to read this question again, because I was like, if this was 2018, I would be smiling ear to ear. I'd have such a great fun answer, like 501st battle pack. I really hope to see it in 2019. I'm so excited. And I feel broken as I read this question. It like really put me in a bad mood, as far as bad as it is to say it like that. It's a great question, right? But man, it just made me kind of sad about the reality of what Lego Star Wars is right now. I look at a set like the Turbo Tank with its Galactic Marines. I'm like, if this was 2018, obviously this goes with having them also be high quality, but I would be like, man, I really hope we get a Galactic Marine Battle Pack next year. I want to get as many of those as I can. And unfortunately, the figures just aren't good enough for me to care to buy more than the 3 that I currently own. Like, I don't want any more Galactic Marines right now, and it's sad. Like, I guess I could add the waist capes onto them, but it's just an exorbitant cost to do at the level that I would want to do it. Like, I'd love to have like 50 Galactic Marines, and then I got to spend $100 on waist capes for that, and it kind of sucks. And so now when I think about battle packs I would want, they either are going to end up being poor quality versions of clone troopers that would have been better 10 years ago, or they're just cash grabs like the 327th battle pack or the File First battle pack from 2020, where they're increasing the price of the battle pack just because we want it. Like, that's so wrong. It's so wrong. The battle packs were one thing for so long, and then they saw just how much fans love them because they were doing such a great job with them that they just threw it all out the window, and it just made me sad to read this question because I don't feel like I've had this question in a while. And it's the type of question that 7 years ago, I just would have been like, man, there's so many cool things they could do. There's so many great things. And now you just never know what you're going to get out of it. Will the figures actually be good quality? Will the price be the normal battle pack price? Or because we ask for it, will it be $45? Like, that's the world we live in right now with Lego Star Wars. So yeah, this question kind of broke me. It made me realize that my brain chemistry is messed up from what I used to love, and I was looking around the room trying to figure out what battle pack would I actually want realistically right now. There's not a lot that I could think of. Like, we've got a Stormtrooper, Rebel Trooper battle pack out there. I don't want any Clone Trooper battle packs. I don't think we need a droid battle pack because we got droids in battle packs. We got plenty of battle droids out there. And then I saw this cute little fella and I thought, yeah, a Gungan battle pack would probably be where I'd land right about now. And that should tell you just how broken I am as a Lego Star Wars fan, because there otherwise should be a list of like 20 battle packs I would want over a Gungan battle pack, but a Gungan battle pack is probably top of mind, certainly, but if I was going to make a list of current most wanted battle packs with Lego Star Wars releasing, not in my idealistic world of how Lego Star Wars should be, the reality of what Lego Star Wars would release right now, a Gungan battle pack would probably be what I'd be the happiest with. Kind of hope we see that in 2029, I guess. I don't know when the anniversary of the movie is. Doesn't really matter. But yeah, I would vote Gungan battle pack right now. Darko says, what are your thoughts on Lego including the first 3D printed piece in the holiday train coming out this year? So I think it's a really cool looking part, like especially because of the functionality of it. I think that's kind of why they did it, was so that it could have the functionality there. But I don't think Lego 3D printing parts is a good idea for Lego. It kind of isn't what they are. Lego is an injection molded, specialty made item that's super high quality, and 3D printing stuff just doesn't feel that way to me. Now, I might go out of my way to buy this set just to experience that piece and know, because I feel like as a Lego fan, I have to know. The alternative is to buy the duck that they gave out for like $400 on eBay. That is also another 3D printed piece they did, but they only gave it out at like the Lego house or something in very limited quantities and didn't release it in a microfighter later. The duck is expensive, and so this would be a much less expensive way to get any sort of 3D printed piece officially from Lego. And I think I'm going to have to do it. I think I'm going to have to experience it, see what it's like, but I really don't hope that they do more 3D printed parts, certainly not for Star Wars. I'm saying all this, of course, without having physically experienced it myself, but I look at it and I just think that it's now something that people can replicate so easily with their own 3D printer. Now, I'm sure I'm quite off base there. I'm sure this is a much higher quality 3D printer than most people would have in their houses, but I still think it kind of creates a pathway to that. And if Lego wants to maintain their I'm high quality type of spiel, I think they should stay away from 3D printed, because to me, 3D printed has always felt, certainly in what I've personally experienced, low quality, nowhere near to Lego quality. So I can't speak to what it actually feels like in hand. It looks pretty cool and the functionality is cool, but I don't think Lego should go down the 3D printed route. I just don't. IMS Animation says, Dog, when are we going to get another Count Dooku minifig? It's been 12 years. So the LEGO Star Wars team is apparently quite aware that people want to Count Dooku. I think at this point, it's just a matter of the right year with the right slot for the right set to come around. And so, yeah, I don't think it's any particular reason that we're not getting it and that they're holding off on it. Like Slave Leia may have been not made for so many years because they had to convince Disney to let them make it and put her in swim trunks. Count Dooku doesn't quite have that baggage, if you will. And so I think think Count Dooku will make another appearance. It's just a matter of time. Unfortunately, my guess is as good as yours. Could be next year, could be 4 years from now, but at some point in the relatively near future, we'll get that. TDSW says, do you think we could ever see a UCS AT-TE or a minifig scale version of it? If yes, what could we expect from it? And I think a minifig scale UCS AT-TE is probably what we will end up seeing, given what I just Googled. I looked up minifig scale AT-TE, and it's just like about twice the size of the play scale one that we already have, and you could make one that's close to one-to-one minifig scale for like $400, which is the price of the UCS gunship, or was the price of the UCS gunship after the price increase. And I think if we see something like that in 2027, for example, that would be the 25th anniversary of Attack of the Clones. Of course, not that it has to come out in an anniversary year, but you could see something like that in the reasonably near future, and that would make a lot of sense as kind of the next prequel UCS set. I think it's that, an ARC 170, or some Jedi Starfighters or Interceptors. Like, those are kind of the obvious choices to me, but I think doing something that gets a lot of minifigs into a UCS set for the prequels could be something that LEGO Star Wars would want to do. You technically could do it Clone Wars based, but I would do it Attack of the Clones based, first off to match that Republic gunship, just that slight bit better, but also you could do all of the different types of colored clones in this set that you should have done back in 2022 or whatever anyway, but you can do the Commander, you can do the Lieutenant, you can do the Captain, you can do the Sergeant, I think is the green one. Like, you can get 4 or 5 different types of clones in there, and then you can have a ton of clone troopers. I would want all of the clone troopers to fill all of the seats inside of the AT-TE included in the set. I think people kind of wanted that from the gunship. I thought that was never happening with the gunship from the get-go. I think the AT-TE presents a very different opportunity than the Republic gunship did in UCS form, and so including everything to me and not requiring people to buy add-on battle packs would be just amazing. Now, it is notable that they didn't do this for the UCS AT-AT, and they did require you to buy battle packs, so it won't surprise me when this happens that it would happen that way, and that you would have to buy DLC effectively for your set. It historically has generally been that way. The dropship with AT-OT is another good example from way back. They didn't include all the figures to fill the seats, and you had to go buy battle packs if you wanted to fill it out, so it would stand to reason that that's how it would happen, but idealistically, they would just include all the figures, and that would be amazing, and then there would be no complaints about that. So I hope that's how it happens. I love the idea that it could be episode 2 and we could get all that, and then on top of that, you could conceivably also include the command post with it. We've seen a couple of the smaller versions of that command post, but if we saw that as a larger version that's more one-to-one minifig scale alongside the AT-TE as an all-in-one set, I mean, honestly, that's how you should do it. You should include both, and that way it kind of gives you something that you would otherwise never get. They would never make a UCS command post thing on its own, but you can get that command station as part of the AT-TE as a package for $450 with all the figures, and you could make it this lovable thing. And because it's minifig scale and includes all these figures, you could release some play sets surrounding it from Geonosis. Like, there could be a lot that could happen with something like that. So I think the potential is very high at some point in the next decade. I know it's a long time, but you got to be realistic. There's a lot of other things that are potential candidates for UCS sets in any given year, so any given set is relatively unlikely. But I think 2027 would be our most likely year to see that soonest. And having now actually really thought through it a little bit more, I'm really high on the idea that this can and will happen someday, because it just makes a lot of sense to do it and release other sets around it, and yeah, it could be a lot of fun. Raisonwar says, thoughts on the new iPhone? Seems to be loads of new camera tech, so I would imagine it would be of great interest to you. So yeah, if you don't know, I have the YouTube channel MandR Vlogs, post a lot of great content there, and all of that, almost all of it, is filmed on my iPhone. Right now I've got a 16 Pro, and I have pre-ordered and will be upgrading to the 17 Pro. I'm very excited for the better front-facing camera, because sometimes I'll do my introduction to the vlog with the front-facing camera, but the quality just isn't that great. I mean, it's good, it's very good, but it's not as good as like the normal camera, so sometimes I'll flip it around and do it like this, but then I can't see myself. So having a higher quality front-facing camera is going to be awesome. Apparently you can do dual capture too. I don't know if that'll have any real applications to my vlogs or not, but potentially, and could be something that helps make them even better. Battery life, of course, being upgraded again is a good thing. So currently I have pre-ordered the 17 Pro in deep blue. I like black. I wanted black. When they showed in the keynote there was no black, I was very disappointed, but deep blue is kind of the closest I can get, in the silver, because of the white glass cutout just ain't it for me. It feels very classic Apple, but it's not for me, and then I'm certainly not getting an orange iPhone, so that ain't happening. Now, I almost wanted to order an iPhone Air, but again, the problem is that I use it for vlogs, so I need the extra cameras, and I need the battery life, and I need the better microphones that this is going to have compared to the iPhone Air. But I haven't been that excited for an iPhone in a long time. Like the iPhone Air just made me feel something that I probably haven't felt since like the iPhone 10 or 10s. You know, I really wanted the iPhone 10, couldn't afford it at the time, but I did eventually get an iPhone 10s, and just that was an exciting phone to have. And I look at the iPhone Air kind of the same way. It's a very exciting phone. I know a lot of people look at it and like, who is asking for this? I'm like, it's just cool. You know, people didn't have to ask for it. You still have everything else they've been releasing. They just add another thing for people to choose from. And I love the iPhone Air. I really want an iPhone Air, but in my day-to-day life, for what I use my phone for, I can't have an iPhone Air, and it's very sad. Very, very big first world problem, but it's very sad to me. The iPhone 17 regular also seems to be very good, and I think that's the phone obviously most people should get, as it's cheaper, but basically gets you 95% of the way to this, because you just don't have the camera that zooms in further, I think. But outside of the lack of a black iPhone 17 Pro, I'm pretty happy with these new iPhones. I think Apple's actually done a very good job. I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's the same every year, same every year. They improve stuff. It gets better, you know? You look back 4 or 5 years, it's crazy how much better the iPhone has gotten. So I hate seeing people criticize Apple for not making it better or changing things. Like, what do you want to change? You know, it's like your car every year. They release new cars every year. They don't change a ton every time. And I look at the iPhone very similar to cars in that way. I guess I wouldn't buy a new car every year, but an iPhone is substantially cheaper than a new car. You trade this in, and it only ends up costing like $500 for the new one. And like I said, I rationalize it by using it for my business quite a lot, for my vlog channel and filming everything on there, and so it gets its use. I don't know, let me know what you guys think about the new iPhones. I think the iPhone Air is the most exciting one. I really want it, but I just can't do it. It wouldn't make sense to only have that one camera. Breck says, do you think Rebrickable has correct dates for when sets retire? For example, the new UCS Death Star says under the release section, October 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2027. So it does look like LEGO is planning to have this set out for 2.5 years at minimum. That retirement date can be extended. They very rarely change that retirement date and make it a sooner retirement. We've seen a lot of retirement date extensions over the last 5 years. I think historically we didn't really see that, but a lot has changed in the last 5 years, so we have been seeing a lot of that. And so I would believe that date to be accurate just because it probably comes from some sort of official system where LEGO keeps all of their release and retirement dates, and then it gets leaked out to the public some way, somehow. Like, that's how I can make my videos that I make in February, and I'm like, here are the retiring sets for 2025, you know, and I talk about all that back in February because all those dates are semi-public through different sources that put them out there, and then I get to read them out to y'all, you know? So I assume the Death Star's retirement date comes from the same place that all of the other retirement dates that we talk about on the channel do, and I would believe that to be true. I don't know about Rebrickable specifically, but I assume they, like any other website and myself, source it kind of all from the same place, and yeah, that would therefore be accurate. And 2.5 years makes sense as a bare minimum for that Death Star. I never really thought it was realistic to expect it to retire much sooner than that. Like 1.5 years would be crazy, and it wouldn't even be 1.5 years. It'd be 1 year and 2 months if it were to retire at the end of 2026, you know? That's what happened to Cloud City, though. It retired like that, you know? So that's why that set went up in value so much, or part of the reason, I suppose, versus this Death Star. It looks like off the bat is going to have at least a year more shelf life, which makes sense. You're putting out a $1,000 set. It shouldn't retire in 1 year. That'd be crazy. So that is it for this episode of Ask MandR. If you have a question or topic for next episode, please drop in the comment section below. Appreciate you guys as always. Hit the like button, and I will see you next week or in other videos. Hopefully I can upload more this week. I've been busy.